Desiree?
Yes.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Christina. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources here at Bell Helicopter. So just to be clear, you're interviewing for the internship for Human Resources.
Yes, I am.
All right, perfect. So let's get started. Okay, so my first question is, do you prefer to work by yourself or with others, and why?
I actually enjoy both. I can work with a team and I can also work independently. Depending on the project or task that needs to be completed, I can work independently to ensure that those deadlines will be met. But I also enjoy collaborating with other people to think of new ideas and solutions. I've actually been a part of many organizations where I had to work in a team to complete projects that I would not have been able to do on my own. In these projects, each person had their own tasks to complete, but in the end, everyone had to come together and put their pieces together to finish that project. Although I've been a part of many organizations where I did work as a team and I enjoy working as a team, I really enjoy working independently as well. Depending on the task, if it's easy enough for me to complete on my own, I would rather not ask people for help and I'd rather tackle it on my own. For example, whenever I was a server at a restaurant, I typically didn't ask my coworkers or managers for much help. I would rather focus on my tables individually and give them my own service. There were times, however, if I had larger parties, say of about 30 or more, I would need a little bit of help from my coworkers, such as taking the food out, because that would be a lot for me. In my experience, I think both group work and independent work are equally important. Whenever you have a team, you have the confidence that if you ever need help, there are other people to go to. Whereas when you work independently, you have to rely more on yourself and your own personal strengths shine through. But I think what you learn in each experience is equally valuable to you.
All right. So why should we hire you over the other candidates?
You describe in the job listing that you're looking for a candidate who has the ability to multitask, has strong customer service skills, pays very close attention to detail, and also has strong written and verbal communication skills. Having been a server for a little over a year, I believe I've improved on all of these skills. I have the ability to communicate effectively with all customers and coworkers while still giving great service. I would verbally communicate with my customers throughout their orders to make sure that I had it correct, and I'd also communicate through writing to the cooks to make sure that the order would be, understood through that. I would also have to pay very close attention to detail with certain customers' orders. For example, I would oftentimes have customers who would come in and they would have certain food allergies, and it was my responsibility to pay very close attention to this to ensure their safety. I would write on the order of the ticket that this person's plate of food had an allergy, say they had a dairy allergy, so to not include any dairy products on that plate. Although I would do this, sometimes the cooks would get very busy during a rush and they would forget this, but it was still my responsibility to pay close attention to this and to catch that mistake if it were to happen. Also, there were regular customers who would come in and they would specifically ask for me to be their server because they said in the past I'd given them great customer service. Also, it wasn't very unusual for me to have large parties, and whenever you have these large parties, multitasking is very essential. It can at times become overwhelming and stressful because you're doing so many different tasks at one time. So to deal with the stress, I take a quick moment in another room, catch my breath, and come back out with a smile and ready to work. So due to having these multiple large parties, I'm confident in my ability to multitask while in a stressful situation. I'm also very eager to learn, and I want to improve the skills that I already have. And because of all this, I think I have the skills that you're looking for in a candidate, and this is why I should be hired over others.
All right. And describe a time when you worked successfully as part of a team.
Okay. Last year, while still working as a server, I was getting a party of a little over 60 people with another coworker. This was actually the largest party I'd ever had before, and it was the first party I was ever getting with a coworker. We needed to establish the most effective way for how to keep all the customers happy, as well as in the future, hopefully they would come back and use this restaurant for other parties. We first decided to get the room ready and set the tables up by having all the menus and silverware at each seat. Then my coworker and I discussed as a team how we would organize the party to make it easiest on ourselves, as well as get everything out the most efficient way as possible so all guests would be happy with their service. Once we organized and discussed everything, the guests then began to arrive. Once they arrived, we simultaneously took all the drink and appetizer orders, and once we got those out, then we took the food orders at the same time. Next, we went to the computer stations and input these orders, and we had to double check them to make sure we were completely accurate before we sent them to the back of the kitchen. Next, while the food was being prepared, we went and got all the refills for drinks and appetizer orders, and we helped each other and worked as a team if we needed that help. We also went and asked each customer at the tables if they needed anything to ensure everyone was happy at the moment and that there would be no complaints. Once the food was done coming out of the oven, then my coworker and I and our other coworkers worked as a team to get all the food to the room so that we could then serve the guests. Once the guests were eating, we then decided to split up the checks because the checks were being divided in multiple different ways. And as a result of this approach, when the guests were leaving, they asked to speak to our manager to tell them that they were very happy with their food and their service, and they would be returning for all future parties back to this restaurant. They also requested that if they did have another party, they would like my coworker and I to be their servers. And also they left many positive reviews on social media, so we got great word of mouth, and there were also other parties that were scheduled because they had read these reviews.
All right, perfect. So do you have any other questions for me today?
I do. Actually, what is a typical day like in this position?
Okay, so your typical day starts around 8 o'clock. In the morning, you come, you meet up with your human resources manager, you guys designate tasks. Once the tasks are designated and you complete them, you meet back together, have a small meeting, make sure everything went okay, and then you're typically out for the day around 5 to 5:30.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.